Welcome to the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. Today I'm speaking with my friends Emily and Victoria as they talk about their journey to creating their family using reciprocal IVF. Stay tuned at the end of this conversation for a bit of an update about these two. I am excited to be speaking with Victoria and Emily, friends who live locally, but we're going to do this over Zoom. Welcome to the two of you, and tell us a little bit about yourselves and your family.
Well, first, Sam, thank you so much for having us. And we're so excited for this. And what a fabulous idea. I only wish this had been, 4 years ago when we were starting our family, but we're so happy to be here and share our story. I'm Victoria. I'm a local photographer here in Burlington. I capture all different types of families made with love. And this is my wife, Emily. We've been together for 15 years, married for 7.
Right? Yeah, it'll be 7 in September. We live in Burlington now. We formerly lived in Toronto, which is where our daughter was born. And we have one daughter. So our daughter's name is Leora. She is 3.5. And a whole lot of fur babies. So
never have too many of those.
Our family also includes one golden retriever and 2 cats, and we live in a zoo.
And 2 goats.
Oh, well, they don't live with us.
No, but that's important.
They'd be jealous if they felt left out.
Sure.
Yeah.
So of all of the various methods that are available to members of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community in terms of how to conceive or have a family, what was the method that the two of you took?
Sure. So we chose and opted to create our family with reciprocal IVF, which is a really interesting journey for us. I never grew up, and still to this day, never really had that internal sort of want to carry. And I never grew up being like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to be pregnant. I'm excited for that moment. I just never really had that.
But you really wanted to have a child.
Exactly.
Right.
Thank you. And luckily, being in a lesbian relationship and having another woman with another uterus and everything working and able to, I could kind of be the backup uterus, so to speak. And when I found Emily, and early on when we started conversations, when we were ready, it was the perfect match in the sense that Emily had grown up wanting to carry and really looking forward to that.
Right.
And then also the second part of that was, yes, I really wanted to be proactive in creating our family and really having a role with building our family. So that was really important to me. We have a lot of friends who've done IUIs and other forms of conception, but for me and for us, that was something that really, as soon as we discovered it and that this was a thing that you could do this, like how cool is science?
Yes. I think we actually discovered reciprocal IVF from watching YouTubers who in the States who did reciprocal IVF, and visibility is so important. And
sure.
Sharing your story, a lot of people know about IVF, they know about IUI. Reciprocal IVF is something that's still not talked about as much. And as Tori said, like, it really was a perfect match for us. She didn't want to carry, but she wanted the role. I absolutely wanted to carry. But carrying a biological child was not of the utmost importance to me. Had that been the method that we would have gone down, I would have been happy to do that. But for us, this really worked out perfectly. So for those who don't know, the way that reciprocal IVF works is that it's an IVF cycle where eggs are retrieved from one individual. So in this case, it was Tori. So we did an egg retrieval. So as part of a standard IVF process, an egg retrieval is done. We then chose to use anonymous donor sperm through a sperm bank. Which is a whole other conversation we can have.
And we'll probably come back to that.
That was a fun topic. So we mixed our anonymous donor sperm with Tori's eggs, and then they were created into embryos. We had a very successful IVF cycle. We were extremely fortunate in that way. And then we did a frozen embryo transfer. Our first one was unsuccessful, but our second frozen embryo transfer with a medicated cycle resulted in our beautiful daughter.
There you go. There you go. And I don't know that viewers will see pictures necessarily of your daughter, but it's pretty clear that there's a connection to Victoria.
Well, and that is what is so cool, right? So people look at me sometimes and they know that I was pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I might have missed that step in the process after we did a frozen embryo transfer, and then
right.
So we had such a great experience with our fertility center. We were at Hannum Fertility Clinic, and on all the legal paperwork and all the documentation, it literally said my name and I am the genetic mother. And then it had another line that said gestational mother, which was a really, really cool thing to see, because 100% in legal documents, we are both the mothers.
Yes.
Which we are incredibly blessed and incredibly lucky, and we can recognize how, our privilege of being in Canada and having that. Sure. But it was a pretty cool moment to see that paperwork, and 100% for both the moms.
No doubt. No doubt. That's fantastic. You mentioned something, Emily, that I want to touch on briefly, and that is that you chose to use an anonymous donor. And that's a huge, I'm assuming that some of the people watching this video are learning about RIVF for the first time. They've considered donors if they have a baby and conceive a baby themselves. But can you, if we're not being too personal, can you delve in a little bit as to why it was important for the two of you to decide to use anonymous donor sperm as opposed to someone that you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, there was a number of reasons, but the first and foremost was that we very much wanted to be the sole parents to our child. And we were not, in our case, interested in having a third party have parentage associated with our child. So for us, we also did not have an individual in mind that wanted to donate and then not have that parental right. So for us, it was a no-brainer. It was always going to be an anonymous sperm donor. We went through the process of looking for a sperm donor there are several banks. A lot of people don't know that there's actually very few Canadian donors, and that is because in Canada, it's a very rigorous process to become a sperm donor. You go through about a year of medical treatment. It's very different than in the States.
And you're not paid in the States. You're paid, and that's what contributes to a lot of this as well too in Canada.
Yeah, it's only altruistic in Canada. So we went through the anonymous sperm bank, the anonymous sperm donor process through a sperm bank. For us, it was very important for us to choose a sperm bank that allowed us to see both baby and adult photos, and as well that would give us as much information as possible about the donor.
And also, I'm going to add here as well too. Early on in our fertility process, and even before we had started through the physical IVF cycle, our fertility clinic asked us, and I think it actually was mandatory, to go through a couples therapy program, because with this comes a lot of big life decisions.
Sure.
They're heavy weighted, and part of our therapy and speaking with somebody that the clinic lined up for us was, do we choose an open ID donor or not? So an open ID donor generally just means that when the child is born and when they turn 18, if the child so chooses, an open ID donor is open to being contacted through the fertility clinic.
Right.
So that was a big part of it as well for us. We felt for our family and our children that we did not want to make that decision, and we wanted our child to be able, if they so choose, if they don't, fine, to have the ability to open, to be open to be able to contact them. So that was, as well as the photos, I think honestly that was probably the most important thing as well too.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was very important. And then you go through the process of picking a donor, which is really wild and is kind of like online dating, but for picking your child's genetics, which is just so weird. And then you go through this process of, you feel very shallow. A lot of it is based on looks, and then
can't not be.
Because
I was getting
at
there.
that point, you put faith in the system that all their health checks of all the clearances, all the family medical history, you put a lot of faith into that. And we'll get, when we talk about our journey, we'll talk about that, because we also opted to do genetic testing of our embryos, just because there is so much blind faith that they're telling the truth, 100%. That they're providing all the information, that nothing has been skipped over. So as Emily says, you're shallow in the sense you're looking at photos, and we wanted somebody that looked like Emily in male form, because we're using my genetics, because we went there because we had, assumed that everything was the truth and that they were being upfront and honest.
Yeah. So we went through that process. We wanted to make sure there was clean bill of health. There was no medical issues. There were some things that we were looking for in terms of personality, in terms of characteristics, in terms of somebody ideally that did have resemblance to me, both physically as well as in attributes and traits. Somebody who shared a similar background to me and that sort of a thing, so that in a perfect world, the baby would get something that maybe sort of resembled me, even though it wasn't actually my genetics. The funny part about this, of course, as Sam knows, is that Tori's genetics were so strong that I really gave birth to a mini Tori. So now she does have a blondish hair and she does have my blue eyes. So something worked in there.
But it was one of those things when we gave birth, like when Emily gave birth and the baby was arrived, right away it was like, yeah, they transferred the right embryo. That's our embryo. There are no surprises in the delivery. No. And what was really cool with the donor that we choose, I don't know if it was a bank or if it was the donor specifically, but we also received a letter as to why they wanted to, which was really, I'm glad we have that. Yes. With us too, we have not looked at photos or any of the medical information or any of the donor profile since the night we chose that sperm. We have everything saved. We have everything, but it's just very funny because I personally, I don't know about you, but I have not felt the need to revisit photos, to look at things. And that's just hasn't, I think Leora, our daughter, will be the first person to see that. Our families nobody has seen the photos or the information of the profile. And I think if anybody were to, Leora will be the first one, and if she wants to.
Yeah. And that's amazing. That's amazing. In our world, having a baby is always intentional. It's not something that happens by surprise or accidentally, no matter how hard you try. And it's
both a curse and a blessing.
100%. But because it is always intentional, it's almost always that there's a cost associated with it.
Absolutely.
Or do you feel comfortable sharing an idea as to what kind of pricing people would be looking at and what you faced on your journey so far?
Yeah, absolutely. And we can only speak for ourselves. There is variation between clinics. And something that's also important to state is that there is a bit of misinformation out there about how funding works in Ontario, specifically associated with IVF. So there is funding that is available for IVF. Most individuals qualify for one cycle of IVF, regardless of orientation or reason for choosing. However, that funding is limited per clinic, and most clinics offer it through a lottery system or a waitlist system. So in our case, we could have qualified for the funding. We would have probably had to wait up to 2 years to qualify for funding. And for us, we were blessed to be able to afford the process on our own. And we chose not to opt into the funding process. So for those who hear the numbers and feel scared, just know that there are options. There are also financial aid that is associated and that sort of a thing. But for us, all things considered, our first process of the retrieval of the transfers, of everything included, we end up costing close to $30,000. It's a bit of a kick in the stomach to hear that.
Yes.
Now, because we are lucky that we do have embryos in storage because we had a successful IVF
egg
retrieval the first time in the embryo process, the transfers then for any future children are significantly less expensive. So future children, it's about $4,000 per transfer with
and that's including,
with an additional cost of medication.
And I think that's something that I don't think we necessarily understood the cost of starting all this, because you don't also know what's going to be prescribed and how much and what that time is like. So just to be aware that there are those added costs and they can fluctuate.
Yeah. And depending on, your personal situation, we were lucky that although the actual IVF process of the retrieval and the transfers and everything were not covered, a significant portion of the medication was covered by our benefits. Right. So if you do have medical benefits, then there may be a portion of that could be covered that way.
Oh, that's amazing. That is something to take into consideration too. You're right, because people think about the costs to the clinic for the physical activities that are taking place, but there is that medical preparation that needs to be done, and then through the process as well. So that's really important.
And one thing to keep in, I wish we had known, and I'm glad we figured this out kind of through the process. Emily, thank goodness, is the financial wizard of us, and the detailed and kept immaculate spreadsheets. And all receipts and everything was filed. And thank God, because we did get audited for taxes.
So an important step there, that if we jump back, as well as the medical expenses being covered by benefits, medical expenses associated with IVF, including any medication that is not covered by benefits, is a tax deductible medical expense.
Okay.
So that's actually very important. So when you pay $30,000 out of pocket, that is something that you can claim on your taxes as a medical deduction.
But you have to be,
because it is so significant. And I don't know about you, I don't generally spend $30,000 on my health. Some people do.
But because it was a jump, it was
exactly
1 year.
Sure,
it's not, and then next year there's this amount on our taxes, right? It's going to raise red flags.
We did get audited. I feel like we're scaring people now, but
but if they have a word of warning, then they know.
No, look, maybe we should back up, and maybe you can put the summer earlier too, but like, we did not know other couples in real life who had gone through IVF, let alone reciprocal IVF. We found out about reciprocal IVF. We asked our questions to people in the community. There's an incredible LGBT trying to conceive community out there. We found other couples who we now have become very close with, and other couples who have done reciprocal IVF as well too. But we did not know a lot of this stuff.
No.
And we had to figure it out.
It's fascinating. And I wish, and that's why I'm so, Sam, you are doing such important work. And thank you for doing the work that you are and putting this out there and connecting people. Fertility is something you need your community at. It's an incredible emotional time, ups and downs. Physically, you need to have that. And not having that is really, really difficult. So I'm hoping this and the work that you're doing kind of brings that, and we can all share our tips and what worked for us and things we wish we had known.
Sure. And that's my hope with all of this too, right? Is, you say that you worry that you're scaring people, but at the end of the day, if there are people who are watching this who are just at the beginning of your journey, you need to have the opportunity to have some reality so that you know how to map things out. It isn't, like I say, it isn't something that happens accidentally. We don't just accidentally conceive a baby in our community. And so there's some planning that needs to go into it, both emotional and physical planning that needs to go into it.
And financial, absolutely.
And financial is a huge part of it. Absolutely. Because you're right. You may be able to claim that on your taxes and have a benefit after the fact. But the reality is, you have to come up with that $30,000 to put on your taxes, right? So there is that.
Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Julia from New Hope Surrogacy and Egg Donation. My partner Jenna and I help people all around the world pursuing an alternative path to parenting through surrogacy, egg donation, embryo donation, and adoption. We support surrogates and egg donors all across Canada, helping parenting dreams come true. For more information, please visit www.newhopesurrogacy.ca and find us on Facebook and Instagram.
Are there any words of caution that you would share with the 2S LGBTQIA+ community about the journey you've been on?
A couple of things that come to mind. I think first and foremost, when you are ready with your partner in the situation, really trust your gut and really trust your instinct, and don't let anybody persuade you one way or the other. We shopped around fertility clinics in Toronto before we landed on Hannum and had an incredible experience. But the first fertility clinic we visited, it was very much like, well, why don't you want to carry to me? And well, we should do all your testing, and why don't we try with you? And then if that doesn't work, we'll go. And it was just like, it left such a bad taste in our mouth. I didn't feel like they were hearing us. And we came in knowing what we wanted to do. And I didn't feel that level. I don't think it was because we were a gay couple. I just think it was very much, they were not wanting to start how we wanted to start. And they didn't see the vision. Versus when we met with Dr. Hannum for the first time and we had our consult, and he was like, okay, what are you guys thinking? Have you thought about that? And we're like, this is how we would like to do it. And he's like, great, let's do it.
Right.
And that made all the difference, to have that support and to feel like we were welcomed and somebody was listening and somebody was hearing us. So just really trust your gut and find what works for you, and don't feel that you need to, change who you are, how you want to do this. That would be my first thing. Secondly, I would say be prepared for a lot of assumptions, because that was a really big part. And especially, I think, more for me personally than Emily, because Emily was the carrying partner and the gestational mother. As soon as we announced that we were pregnant, by holding a sign in a photo, over both of our tummies, and it just said the due date. So we kind of teased it a little bit as well too, that we were pregnant. We did not say in that post who was pregnant or how or whatever. And then a couple of days later, we said we're doing reciprocal IVF. Emily is carrying with my genetics. And since then, we've been exceptionally open, and we're an open book in terms of how we've done this. However, that's when the assumptions and different things started. Right away, all women would come to me, both within the community and without, saying, oh, so you're carrying the next one, which is problematic for a couple of reasons. A, it assumes I can carry.
Right. 100%.
I might not have been able to carry, which would have been a trigger. B, that I want to.
Yeah.
And C, that we even want another one or could create another child. Right. So there is just a lot of assumptions that came about. It's one of those things like when you announce you're engaged and people right away say, oh, so when's the wedding? And it's like, we're just announcing we're pregnant with our first child. And like, I don't know about you, but it took us some time and money to get there. So like,
let us savor this one.
And that assumption has carried through today, now 3.5 years later, as we are preparing. Actually, we're in the process right now to expand our family. The few people that we have talked with that are people who ask about future children and future what we're going to do. The assumption is still there, because I identify as a woman, I have the parts, and I should want to carry. Mm-hmm. So we're very aware, especially myself, that as we go through number 2, there will be a little bit more of, oh, you didn't want to carry, and how are you guys going to do that? So it will be genetically, will this one be Emily's? And there's just a lot of assumptions that I wish. Look, I am happy to answer questions, and I think there's a lot of misunderstandings, and especially if you're not within the community, there's a lot of curiosities.
Right.
It can be so worded in a different way, and I don't think you would ask other couples and other people those sort of ways, and we're happy to answer questions just as long as they're a little bit more open-minded.
And it's nobody's business, right? At the end of the day.
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think the advice that I was going to give, and it was really along those lines, is just to be really clear on your boundaries. So,
that follows that. I think that flows into that.
Exactly. Yeah. That, it's a tough process. Any type of fertility process is a tough process. It's important that you're secure in your relationship. It's important that you have trust with your partner. It's important that you have the emotional capacity to take it on, as well as the physical capacity. But as part of that, and as part of our community, there will be questions, and just to be really clear about boundaries. And for us, as Tori alluded to earlier, a lot of our boundaries have to do with what we share and what we don't share about our sperm donor. And that goes not just with community, that's friends and family as well.
everyone.
Yeah, we have been very lucky that both parents are very, they're thrilled for us. We have the support and love, all the support and love we could need. And again, we understand that's a privilege and we're very grateful for that. But they understand that, there are some information that we have to ourselves or that we'll share with Laura.
And that's not because it's a secret and we don't believe it should be a secret. It's just that it's information that not everybody needs to have. And so, yes, there's boundaries with that. There's boundaries also about what you want to share along the process of a fertility process. So some people, it's very important to lean on their community, whether that's friends, your family, your community, otherwise. But for other people, they want to keep it a secret and have it be a surprise and to be able to have that, big announcement and whatever. And so just to really try to be secure and forward thinking in terms of what you want your journey to be and look like. But also know that can change. And, we've found ourselves in circumstances as well, where things that we've wanted to be a surprise for whatever reason haven't become surprises and so on, but just really trying to be, secure in what your goals are and your boundaries.
Right. Absolutely. And to that end, it is you've said that you are on the journey to grow your family. And this is a conversation for anyone who's watching. Please understand that this is a conversation we had before. I'm not flying out of the blue and adding anybody. It's not an announcement. It's not an announcement. But you are in the process of revisiting the reality that it isn't quick and easy. You just can't decide you want to do it just because you've got fertilized eggs, you've got the uterus. That's wonderful. And it's a journey. It's a journey that you're embarking upon again, and it hasn't gone yet the way that you want it to. But I am sending you both love and hopes and expectations that it's going to go the way you want it to very soon.
Thank you.
Somebody described once, and it's always stuck with us, that IVF is a hurry up and wait process.
It is. Yeah.
And I truly could not find better words than to describe it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. As you've been on this journey and you've been on it for a while and you've had a variety of experiences with it, have you been made to feel like you are the other?
No, I don't. Okay, I can speak for myself. Sorry. I don't think so. I think the funny thing and sort of a positive othering, most people go to a fertility clinic, and I say most because the majority of our community may not be going because they are, part of our community. So most people go to a fertility clinic because they're having trouble having kids naturally. When we went to our fertility clinic, we were always thrilled to be there. This was the first time around.
We had a bit of a reputation because we would come in, and I'm a photographer by trade professionally, and I love to document. So we were coming in being like, yay, first, blood test, and yay, sonohistogram, and look at us, it's egg retrieval day. And our nursing team and doctors got a complete kick out of us because we were there so excited and optimistic, and this was such an exciting moment, and we hadn't had that journey leading up to it.
Right. So we definitely did have one or two experiences here or there and ultrasounds and things like that didn't quite make us feel 100% like everybody else that was at either the clinic or afterwards when we were discharged to our OB as well. But there were a few times, I think, along the way that we felt that we were not on the same path as everybody else. But I would say for the most part, we had a very smooth pregnancy and a very, generally a pretty smooth journey the first time around. And I don't really feel like we were made to feel otherwise.
Well, what I find interesting about that is that spoken by a gestational mother.
Because I was carrying.
Who was carrying.
Right. Yes.
And it's a very different experience being a mom who is not giving birth.
Right.
And right from the beginning, it's different, right?
Sure.
I have never had to come out more in my life than since starting the fertility journey and having a child. It's an everyday occurrence. It's people who I don't think necessarily mean anything by it, but just haven't quite gotten to that spot yet where it can be like, oh, what does your partner do? If I'm at the park with Leora, they'll say, oh, what does your husband do? Oh, does she look like your husband?
100%. I was more talking about our fertility journey, but as a parent,
but to be fair, that started with fertility.
Okay.
That started with fertility. That started with even being in our we gave birth at Sunnybrook. We did the prenatal classes there. And it was just, we were the only same-sex couple. And there were a couple times the teacher said, husbands, fathers, just little things, baby shows.
Yeah, those were bad.
Baby show. And again, this is a very different experience as to somebody who is showing and is actively visibly pregnant versus who am I, the best friend, the sister, am I also pregnant but not showing? And I mean, we also found that with wedding, right? Like we had been through that again before. Oh, who is the bride? And the same situation, who is the mom? Yeah. So it's very interesting hearing, and I'm grateful you have not had that as much. But yeah, that my experience has been pretty different. Nothing absurdly, but just it's there.
And that's why they're called microaggressions, right? People don't mean them to be, but unfortunately, once you stack enough microaggressions on top of each other, it feels like you're going to explode sometimes.
There's been paperwork that, we've had to cross out the father.
Exactly.
There's just little things, like it's 2022. I mean, like this, we're not the first same-sex family. And like
and there were several times when people found out we were expecting, if you were on your own, that people would look at your tummy or
I have a funny story right before, when I was working in public relations, right before our baby was born. So Emily was very, very pregnant. I was working with somebody, a journalist, a member of the media. And I said, oh yeah, I'm going on, we're about to have our daughter, we're about to give birth. And she looked at me and she patted my stomach and she goes, you look really good. And I'm like, oh, I'm not carrying. So I mean, we can break that down on many levels. I don't think we need to.
So many.
But like, yeah. So I mean, slightly different experience
for sure. And I think, look, Sam, there's a whole other world out there for you post baby show about just LGBT parenting that is like a whole other conversation. But definitely the fertility process, the journey to creating a family is one thing. Certainly to be prepared for, as Tori said, like you will never come out more than you do. I mean, if you choose to, then as a parent,
absolutely,
especially when you're on your own. Like if you're at a park, we went to the mom and baby classes. It's constant. What does your husband do? Constant, like Leora has extreme dimples, which she gets from this one right over here, as you can see.
Yes.
And everybody comments on her dimples, and I obviously don't have dimples, and so it's, oh, does she get it from her dad? Always. So it's and you choose whether you respond to that or not.
Because there's you have to. And this is something, as a member of the community, I think a lot of people can relate to, right? It's reading the situation, reading the new person. Do you want to come out? Do you want to go there? I have definitely, and I hate to admit it, but there's definitely been instances where I just said, oh yes, because I just didn't want to go.
You're then coming out again.
And you leave and you walk away and you feel icky inside, and it's not who you are, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But at the moment, you just didn't want to go there.
You're not going to say something to the old lady at the grocery store that like correct them, like it's just one of those things. But so, we've been very blessed along our journey. We've been very lucky to the same way, but we are also, part of the community, and you can't avoid that. And we are still on the path to people around us learning.
Right. But I will say what's been very interesting, and what I did not expect in the fertility journey, was as soon as we announced when we were pregnant and we had reached our second trimester, and we announced how we did it, I had a lot of people in all different walks of my life, come to me, private message, pull me aside, say, you know what, we did IVF, or we actually used an egg donor, and oh my God, that's so cool, I did fertility too. And like this whispered hush hush, wow, you're letting it on a secret? I can share my secret with you. It was beautiful, but it was heartbreaking, because it's like, why do we have to wait to get to that spot before we can talk and support one another through that? So and that way, that was a really cool experience because all of a sudden we were part of this like fertility community. And, you know, all the other people who have been through all different types of treatments and journeys. And, you know, we were very much not there because like, it transcends everything, right? Fertility transcends absolutely everybody and everything and touches us in different ways. So that was an interesting community that I didn't expect to be thrown into, and wish in some ways it didn't have to be like that. And that's part of the reason why we're so open about how we've created our family as well too, and just trying to get that stigma of fertility removed.
Yes, and it's true. You're right, because we don't talk about it, and in our community we talk about it pretty freely because it has to happen.
But it has to happen.
Right, outside of our community, it's a conversation that's very quiet.
And what's fascinating about it too is that so many people, I correct me if I'm wrong, I think the statistic is something like 1 in 4 couples seek out and need fertility help or treatment in some sort of form. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. I remember, Emily, when we were at the fertility clinic one morning, you saw somebody from work.
Oh yeah. And it was like this thing, and it was like, well, do you say something? Do you not say something? Like, it's
look at the floor.
It's very funny. But, you know, just, you know, getting back to the sort of crux of this is that, I think it is so important within our community to share our stories and to share the positives and to share the negatives and the ups and the downs. And it can be a lonely process. And so, you know, that's why for us, you know, we are here if anybody wants to talk. Like we absolutely try to be in that manner so that people feel comfortable. And you have to lean on people. You have to find people that you can lean on, whether it's Sam, whether it's friends, whether it's, you know, people within your community physically and locally. And so
but even beyond that, like we just got actually back from a trip out east where we visited a wonderful family that we had befriended online, another two moms family. They have a beautiful daughter who's 2 years old, and it was so special to have found them and continued our friendship all these years, and to see our 2 daughters playing and running at the beach together. When we told our daughter that we were going to meet up with our friends when we were on vacation, and we said she also has 2 moms, our daughter was like, oh, wow.
She goes, she has a mom that look just like me.
And there's something, I get goosebumps even just thinking about it. And there is something so special and magical about seeing that. And we have worked really hard and put a lot of time and effort and want to find that community.
I mean, it's funny because she has other friends who have 2 moms, so I'm not really sure what that one was so exciting.
No, but it's important, right? Families that look like hers, she needs to be able to feel like she has a way to put herself in a category too, right?
Absolutely. And we've been very, that's a whole other episode about, you know, raising
There's
kids.
So many episodes I could do.
Absolutely.
So I guess, you know, there's a bias, obviously. You've agreed to be on this show. We communicate outside of this, so we know of one another. But when you were going through the process with Leora, would something like this have been beneficial? And if it would have, what pieces of it do you think, or is there something that you really think needs to be included so that we do not forget to talk about it?
We looked for this. Honestly, we looked for supports for LGBT families looking to grow their family. At the time we were living in Toronto, there was one program that we used to be run out of the 519 Center that was not running when we were looking for it.
And Sherburne Health had discontinued its program as well too. There are some legal courses in terms of what you would need to do legal wise, but that didn't quite apply in our situation. And again, we did not know anybody who we knew some people who had done other ways of conception, but we did not know anybody who had done reciprocal IVF. So I think even just having just to be able to connect with people, to ask about experiences, to see a family that had gone through that looked like our family.
There's a couple things that I would have liked. I think the first thing was some sort of a community of a way of talking to other families going through the same thing. So other LGBT families that maybe were in the process of fertility or who wanted to at some point build their family, having access to talk to people, whether it's virtual or in person, I think would be huge.
Yes.
I also think just like a 101 up front about all of the ways of how to build your family,
Right.
would have been really helpful. Things to navigate, possibility of bringing in somebody who has, legal experience or financial experience would be really great.
Yeah.
We actually had to actively look for like, what is legal in Ontario? Do we have to do second parent adoption? All those things. Are we going to be both on the birth certificate? We just didn't know. So
Right.
having a fairy godmother, fairy gay mother, whatever you want to call them, to help guide you through the process. We would have loved just somebody to help.
Yeah. And I will just sort of throw that in, just for anyone who is watching. There is a lawyer that I do speak to, but it's about surrogacy law. It's not specifically about birth certificates. And in the province of Ontario, both parents can be on the birth certificate. So if you need to know that is that information, but it is important, you're right, it is something to know. And it's a question, especially in the parenting forums that there are in social media. Lots of the members are from the US, and there are different rules in different parts of the world.
And for those wondering as well, it is parent 1 and parent 2 on your birth certificate, which is really nice not to have gendered language.
Absolutely.
And one thing I will add to that too, again, as a non-gestational mother, I would really have liked support in that role, because I feel like that is still a role. I'm not a dad. I'm not a male in this experience.
Yeah.
So there's just little things. My body had reactions I wasn't expecting to Emily carrying, and it would have been nice to have somebody to check in and talk to in this specific role. And then also I think it would have been incredible to have a prenatal class and Sam, I know that's what you do as well too.
Yes, yeah.
And truly, that is what I wish we had that in a comforting, open environment that come as you are, and all different types of partners, or as a single parent, or just with a friend, just whatever. Yes, this is a birth class for everybody, and I think that would have been really cool, because of course, I always had this dream of like, we meet people in the birth class and we get together with our babies after, and it just didn't quite end up that way. So I think that would be that I would really look for that. And again, for number 2, even if we need to brush up on things, right? Like, it would be really cool to find that.
Absolutely. Let's wrap up really just with one thing that you absolutely love about parenting. You are on the other side of having been through the process at least once. You have your beautiful dimpled darling. And so let's just quickly, what is, because there are going to be days when people watching this are going to have ups and downs. And so I want them to have a taste of just something that they can look forward to.
Yeah, go first.
Well, I mean, she's with her grandparents tonight, so there's lots of things we can talk lovingly about her at the moment. No, and in all seriousness, like, it's just been an incredibly rewarding journey to see this person that's doesn't have biases. She doesn't have anything that she and she's new, and she's curious, and she asks questions, and you get to have a little say in help molding this new person for the world, and how she sees the world, and giving her experiences, and finding out what she's interested in, and seeing her come alive in her personality and what she loves. And not a day goes by, I think, where we don't say, oh my gosh, like, she's incredible, like she's amazing, and we are so proud of her, and we are so lucky to be her moms.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it's just a type of love that you have never experienced. Do you think you've experienced different types of love in your life? And there are so many different types of love. The love a parent has for a child, at least in our case, is so pure, and it is so unconditional. And the way that a child loves a parent too is it's just heart melting. And to be able to look into your kid's eyes and know that however they came to be your child, that they are so loved, and they're so wanted.
They're so wanted.
It really is a beautiful thing. And so for those of you who have young kids, if you're having a hard day, if you have a newborn, it can be a hard time, but it's it truly is the purest type of love. And it really it just warms your heart, and it's so special. And yeah,
it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work.
She didn't ask us that part.
No, I'm glossing over that part.
I'm like, this sounds good. Let's have another one. But like, yeah, the reality is it's a lot of work. It's a lot of love. Wouldn't change it for the world.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for taking the time to have a chat with me so that I can share your story with everyone else.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us, Sam. This has been wonderful. And we're open if anybody would like to reach out to us and connect. I'm at After All Photo on Instagram. You can send me a direct message and I'd be happy to get in touch and share anything or more specifics about our journey.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Shortly before releasing this episode in August 2023, as the original was recorded in the summer of 2022, Emily and Victoria announced that they are expecting another baby due in January 2024. Congratulations to you both and your entire family from babyREADY and all of our listeners.
Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming babyREADY podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.